Hello everyone, welcome to Lush and Salty Aquariums. My name is Stefan. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. This is my 32-gallon long or bookshelf style aquarium featuring, as you can plainly see, a plethora of live bearers, mollies, platies, and swordtails, mostly orange and black color morphs, and that's somewhat by design. I mean, I can't control Mother Nature, and some of these females will throw various colors like that peach molly you see down there, and of course the black mollies, of which I have a fairly good amount, also interbreed with the red, and so I'm looking for red and black, but I get what I get, and it's just a chaos of color, a lot of fun, and it works on a bit of the motif, to throw out a $10 word, for the reddish hues that I was going for with that substrate and some of the plants and hardscape. There's Dragonstone, which has that red-orange color. Of course, you can't see any of it anymore because of the intense plant growth. And so, you know, your best laid plans. If you want to make God laugh, tell him you have a plan. So my black and red scheme has a lot of asterisks next to it, happily so. And my reddish riverscape plan from day one has been obliterated by Mother Nature, and now I just have this really fabulous long aquarium with a whole ton of plant life, of which I'm going to talk to you about some. I moved, just to start on a particular, this Hydrocolte tripolate, I mean, I call it Hydrocolte Japan or Japanese Clover. This wonderful bunch, this ping pong ball, actually tennis ball size, of super healthy growth, that's basically just tied onto one of those moss holders that you can get online. They're magnetized, they're really cheap. There's the magnet, there's the holder. And so I don't really have a place in the aquascape for that plant right now, but I want to keep it going in the event that I do, which is inevitable. It's never if, just when. But it's pretty badass to just see it like that, occupying some real estate that most of you likely have available in your aquarium too. So not only does it grow mosses super duper good, but a surprising amount of other plants will fare really well without a substrate. And because the water is all around this, the circulation and flow, and it's that much closer to the light, and it's not being competed with or by other plants, things do really well on these little holders. So, oh my gosh, get yourself some. It's really a great nifty hack. So last time I filmed this tank, there was a ton of these crypticorns down here. Since I last saw you, since we last visited this aquarium, I pulled out 75% of them and planted just about 8 plants, clean plants, small plants, giving a ton of air to breathe and filling out, you know, the real estate in that lower middle, which was just one big crypt wall. And then with this Blia Japanica, guys, I know this is a delicate plant, and some people say you have to prune it by pulling out the various plantlets, and it separates sort of like a tissue culture plant would, and all that is true. But I just cut 2 inches, 3 inches of these tendrils. I just cut it down like a grass, and I didn't think twice about it. That was a week ago, and you can see it's already starting to fluff out and bunch out. So once you get this plant going, there's any number of ways you can cultivate it. And I did want to free up space for all these fish, because while my plan is to catch out a bunch of them and bring them to my LFS, they need all the real estate they can get. I mean, it's crowded, and I get that. I know it's overpopulated, and so what I'm doing before I cull or take out some of these juveniles, like that black molly there, of which there's probably about another 6 or 7 of his brothers and sisters, I certainly want to keep the aquarium in tip-top shape on all other aspects, and B, I want to make sure there's enough swimming space, just flat out swimming space. Here you see a hill stream loach enjoying the glass. That guy is always there. I bought 4 a year ago, so I don't ever count 4 in any one time, but that is no indication on whether they're still in here or not. I have very few fatalities in this aquarium, knock on wood. Very, very few, actually. And live bears can die almost as much as they can reproduce. I mean, it's just a thing. I do have certain interesting issues. As the fish begin to age, they lose some of their vibrancy. These mollies, like that one is getting a bit of a muzzle. Now I know that's a gold dust molly, and so that gold is not abnormal, but some of them, and maybe even that one that I'm singled out, like an old dog, they will get a gray muzzle. I mean, or their body will lose some of its vivid black and become a little bit mottled, like this guy. I can't catch him. He's not sick as far as I know, but he's graying just same way I am if I had hair. Just an interesting fact. So something to look for, particularly in live bears, which don't live very long, have high metabolisms, and they reproduce so much because they come into this world and exit this world so much. There's a beautiful long tail swordtail there, and we saw a more traditional swordtail swim by. See, there's the tail anyway, a red one with the high fin. Wonderful color morphs or phenotypes in here. That's an orange tuxedo platy right there. Very beautiful. And then of course I've got some fun Coreodoras. There's a juvenile albino longfin. In here are also some gold lasers and maybe some Venezuelan or some Schultzii Coreodora, as well as some Plecostomus. I think I'm looking at a pleco back there. Bushy nose, yeah, I see him fiddling about there. I throw in some algae wafers about twice a week in all my tanks for the various Plecostomus, the bristlenose, and really a lot of the other fish, especially live bears, love vegetable matter. So the frozen zucchini definitely is a treat that I do avail these fish to a couple times a month, but I use algae wafers twice a week, along with all kinds of other good foods. So you can see water Sprite, the way I cultivate it back there, more like a bush. It's probably not rooted in the substrate, but you can maintain and manage it as if it were, in a sense. As long as it's not really close to intense flow, you can kind of manicure it or style it, if you will, and keep it where you want it to be. It's got that great toxic green color, and I mean toxic in a good way, like how saltwater fish keepers describe that vivid green in some of the coral, toxic green, and it has that wonderful leaf structure. I'm not using it as a floater per se. I have done that. I use it as a floater in my sump, but I have so much going on at the surface already that I wanted to keep that plant in the corner the way you see it. This is Brazilian pennywort. It just doubles in size every week, so I'm constantly pulling tendrils off. And my LFS will take all I can give him because it's a popular, fast-growing plant, and he says mine are better than what he can get from the online distributors, probably because if it ships for a few days, it can lose some of its snap, some of its pop. It would always respond, but here it is with in more shade. It's a little bit smaller leafed, not as vivid. And then across the top over here, where it has no competition save for the Vallisneria, which I'll talk about in a minute, it's just crazy. And you can see some baby live bears right there in the orange and black morph showing through. Now there's a longfin white cloud minnow. Those were among the original fish in here. I lost them in the foliage, but there's still a few of them, and they seem to get on just fine with all these other fish. Obviously, they would love it if it was a species-only tank with about 20 of them, but it isn't. And just like we have to get along with our neighbors that aren't immediate family, and sometimes even in immediate family, we have to be amicable, pleasant, and agreeable tank mates. The lessons of an aquarium onto society. See, there's another molly that has what I call the gray muzzle across its body. It's a beautiful fish in terms of its shape and that back tail, etc. And if I put a net in there to try to catch it, thinking maybe it's aging out and I have to do something, you know, that thing shoots away like a barracuda. So I don't think it's sick, but that does happen to my black mollies. They lose their vim and vigor. After a year and a half or so, they start to do a slow fade like that. So, you know, it is what it is. I don't think I'm doing anything right or wrong. It's just the way that fish comports itself over time in a heavily stocked aquarium with his fellow tank mates. Look at, speaking of vim and vigor, look at all that Anubias. Now that's upon the dragonstone, which we no longer see. And then right in back is the wall of Vallisneria, which is jungle veil as well as leopard veil. Leopard veil means it has like a black and red color and pattern. You can see some of it in there. And I want to talk to you a little bit about veil and actually try and do something for you while I'm filming. If you think you need to be careful on how you trim veil because the leaves will die if you cut them halfway across, think again. They do absolutely fine. And here's another fun tip. Instead of me digging around back into the root system, whenever it gets really, really long, I literally grab the longest strand, get a nice little grip, and then go boom, and it will come right out in an entire stem. Check it out. Let me try to get that in. The whole stem right down to the base. The whole leaf, I always forget with Vallisneria. All of it, clean as a whistle. No fuss, no muss. You do that about 10 times. See there, you see the whole strand. 10 times, 20 times a week, and you can keep your Vallisneria in check. Once in a blue moon, the plant tugs back. It doesn't want to come out of its rooting, and then I leave that one be. The other thing is, it's perfectly fine to cut anywhere you want. I have never seen a Vallisneria leaf rot or decay. I see some algae form at the edge. Like you see some there maybe, if that's not a shrimp. No, that's a little bit of decay. But there's so much going on, and you know, it's really thick here. So you're gonna get a little bit of algae, you're gonna get a little bit of activity like that, but the plant is perfectly healthy and it can tolerate pruning and cutting in all the ways I've described, and probably then some. I've got some Cryptocorn Balancea here behind my reflection, which is sort of a fun variation on the Vallisneria effect. It has the red, thicker stems, and then the crinkly, fun patterned leaves. You see it's competing a little with the Val right there, but that's it. So after I'm filming the next day or so, I will pull these stems out just like I showed you. 1, 2, there it is, you see? Pretty cool, huh? And I can really maintain my aquascape that way with no disruption to the substrate or the inhabitants of this aquarium. That little fuzzy beauty is, oh gosh, Mermaid Weed. And I had a fantasy of keeping that plant in a bigger way in my display tank, and another tank as well. But for whatever reason, the specimens I got were shoddy, and where I wanted to put them wasn't ideal the more I researched it. But I did keep the very best little pieces of that plant, and they look great there. Obviously, not obviously, and I use that word, it's funny, I just did a video about words and language and what we say, especially when we're filming or speaking to people or presenting. I use obviously when I shouldn't. Be that as it may, this plant wants to be robust and tall and vigorous. I can't get that here right now because it's in a limited space, but I can keep the plant alive. And if I have an opportunity, take those 3 little specimens and put them where they really want to be, which is in more light with less going on around it. Certainly not a Blia Japanica, Sterigen repens, and a Crypticorn Balancea, all over it. I'll have the plant at the ready. It's a similar idea to keeping the Japanese Clover, Hydrocolta Japan, here, as opposed to just nowhere. I can keep that plant alive for future aquascapes, or even for trades. And just because in its own way, even stunted here, is very beautiful. It's exceptional. I don't have this plant anywhere else in my fish room. And then I can say the same probably to the Hydrocolta Japan, although that is a more insidious plant. So if it's in this aquarium here, likely a tendril has found its way into the cluster. And when I'm doing a deep clean, I'll find strands of it. This is Limophilia hyperoides, just the tops. If I didn't have all this Brazilian pennywort up here in the veil, if it was hit with more light, those tops would be more red. As it is, that's about the 5th iteration of cutting. I keep just trimming it down and planting the tops because I want to keep that plant alive too, but I don't have a place for it. So in many ways, is as attractive as I find this aquascape straight up, it's also somewhat of a grow out for my plants. So I certainly don't want to go to the fish store one day and buy Blia Japanica or Hydrocolta Japan or those other 2 plants, knowing I had them all along. And there's no need. I'm just being creative and working with the space I have and getting ideas from you guys when I watch videos. I'm just thinking about this stuff before I drift off to sleep. That's how I came up with the notion to go search for moss racks and maybe keep some moss in excellent shape, as well as other plants, and lo and behold, it worked. So the dream became reality. This is pothos, 2 different kinds. I've got it growing out of a pothos hanger, which you can no longer see, which is great. I also have the tiniest Oase filter at this back end here, and it does provide some flow all the way at this side of the tank. And I forget it's there, but I check that it's not all blocked up, and it isn't, and it adds a layer of filtration. It's all biological media in there. And at one point when I wasn't getting any flow down here, I did discover some algae, and I also wanted to keep as much oxygen in the water as possible because I have so many fish. So that's when I added that filter. That's like their Filto 60. It's their smallest quote unquote canister, and it literally, if you buy the extra attachment, it will hang on the back. But that's an Oase. Obviously not that, there's obviously again, it's not the heated version. That is what I'm running this whole tank on, the Biomaster 650 thermo, you know, whatever they call it, the one with the heater. Love those filters, although it's not unconditional love. I have had some issues, but given it has the pre-filter and a heater built in, those are really excellent attributes for a canister filter. Any questions or comments? Please hit me up. I love hearing from you. And as always, folks, keep your hands in the tank, albeit carefully, and ciao for now.